Welcome to Film Phreeks. This is Justin Llewellyn
and Eddie Williams,
and this is another audio retrospective that we're going to be doing of one of the most iconic franchises of the 1980s and one of the most iconic action heroes of our time, which is the Indiana Jones franchise that we're going to be talking about, which started out in 1981. It was directed by Steven Spielberg and was created from a story from George Lucas, and it was also written by Lawrence Kasdan, who worked on the Star Wars films. And this was also basically developed as an idea from these old serials that they did back in the 30s and 40s about adventure films and stuff. That George Lucas wanted to come up with an idea of a guy that's that's basically like the everyday action hero equivalent of like James Bond and stuff, but kind of like, a more adventure type guy.
Yeah.
And with Indiana Jones, he came out with that creation after the success of Star Wars that George Lucas did. He got Harrison Ford on board to play the role of Indiana Jones. And believe it or not, what's interesting was Harrison Ford wasn't the first choice. They actually wanted Tom Selleck to play Indiana Jones, which I think would have been interesting, but at the same time, I could see why they didn't want to get him for the role, because I couldn't really imagine anyone else besides Harrison Ford.
Yeah, true.
Because at the time, Tom Selleck was doing this show called Magnum P.I. at the time, so his schedule had it conflicted with the movie.
Yeah.
But that was the original choice they wanted to go with.
Yeah.
And so this came up with they came up with the idea of doing pretty much like an icon, like an action hero that can go into like the jungle and shit, which. And he
also is book smart.
Yeah.
Very smart, too.
Yeah. And so, with the first Raiders of the Lost Ark, believe it or not, for the longest time, I'll be honest, I've never really watched any of these movies until a lot years later.
Yeah. This wasn't even my first one I watched. I actually watched Temple of Doom first.
Yeah.
Which is funny because that was a prequel eventually, but I didn't know that. I didn't know about that. I just knew about that one, and it took me kind of, when I was kind of getting my 11 years old to officially watch the entire series.
Yeah. And basically, this film began. The movie is in regards to the movie is about Indiana Jones, who ends up going to this tomb with his friend to discover this kind of like ancient to retrieve a golden idol, so to speak.
Yeah.
It's in Peru that him and his friend go to, and he goes to this. He ends up. This
is an iconic scene, too.
Basically, he ends up going there and he replaces it with something else to make sure, because it's basically booby trapped. And when he goes there, he ends up getting replaced with something else in time. And then we get that iconic scene where he ends up leaving from the cave and he ends up going to.
Well, you had the things going on with the boulder. Well, here's a thing. I do want to bring this up on the boulder scene. I actually been on that ride with the boulder in Disney World. So that was a pretty interesting thing. But anyways, yeah, you get these booby traps where he has to go and, put his, not step in the wrong area or he falls through.
Yeah.
You have these spikes where it looks like people's been through before and they've
It's basically what inspired Tomb Raider.
Yeah,
also.
Tomb Raider too. So, yeah, Tomb Raider is basically the girl version of that.
Yeah.
So, basically, he gets this emblem thing and, did the guy betray him or something?
Yeah, he did. He was he betrayed him, and then he basically ended up getting him killed himself because these spikes that came out.
Yeah, spikes went right through his head, and because there was a part where the floor was falling through, and he said, "Hey, throw it to me," and he did, and the motherfucker left, but he got spiked. So Indiana Jones, and I think the Nazis are also in this one where they're chasing after him.
They're trying to go after him, and then he ends up leaving.
Well, he's running from the villagers who found out he was, in the thing, so he escapes on an airplane.
Yeah, and then he ends up taking off. We get our opening scene and everything.
First music.
And the music by John Williams, outstanding.
Oh, God. Yeah, John Williams did fucking phenomenal in the music. Well, little story about Indiana Jones. He's also an archaeologist.
Just working at the college and in Connecticut, and he's basically he comes to the attention of these two Army intelligence agents that tell him that the Nazis are looking for his old mentor named Abner Ravenwood, who Indy actually studied with at the university. Yeah. And basically, the Nazis want to know that the Ravenwood. Well, the Nazis basically know that his friend is the expert in this city that they're looking for that has this kind of artifact known as the staff of Ra. That's what they're going after. So basically, the plot is dealing with Indy having to go after and search for that item. Yeah, that they're looking for. Yeah, and the rest of the story deals with. They're looking for the Ark of the Covenant. That's what it is.
Yeah, that's in the desert. Yeah, out in like Egypt or somewhere, or Saudi Arabia or some shit.
I believe it's in Egypt. Yeah.
Yeah, Egypt, Cairo, Egypt. Yeah, and
basically along the way, he ends up going on a journey to recover this, and along the way, he ends up discovering an old girlfriend of his, Marion, who is played by Karen Allen, who she's also discovering him there when he finds her at this bar or whatever, and the Nazis are looking for him or are trying to look for the artifact as well, and they end up causing some trouble in there, and there's a fight that breaks out basically. Yeah. And this is when we pretty much get into our scene where they have this bar fight that takes place and all that, and and he's kicking ass, and the place goes on fire and stuff, and the movie just has such.
Yeah, because didn't that happen like in Tibet or somewhere? Yeah. Yeah. And then basically they have to go to Egypt, and they meet that one bigger guy.
Yeah,
his other partner.
Yeah, John Rhys Davies' character, who introduces them to basically is helping him along the way and everything.
And we get that famous scene where you get that little conflict where they're running through the
village,
the villages and stuff, and they get that big old sword, Aladdin looking.
Yeah. He pulls out this sword, and then Indy just pulls out his fucking gun instead of pulling out his sword, and just blows him away.
That shit was fucking hilarious.
And what's interesting about that was actually improvised because it was actually Harrison Ford's idea to come up with that scene, because he actually wanted to have basically, instead of using a traditional fight, he wanted to just pull out a gun and do it on his own.
Kind of trick the audience.
Yeah. And actually, Spielberg actually went with that because he said that he saved a lot of time with the budget and everything. Yeah. So instead of having to choreograph the scene with any type of fight scene, he went with that scene where
because you're already going to see a bunch of fights anyway. Yeah. So why not trick your audience and say?
Yeah.
And I thought it was actually kind of fucking hilarious.
It was.
Yeah.
He's like, fuck it.
Yeah. I mean, and he was using his famous whip getting around and stuff and all that this time. Kind of reminds you of Aladdin in this scene.
It does, yeah. And basically, he's going throughout the film trying to, get across look for the artifact and everything, and we get along the way, he's coming across more of the Nazis are coming after him, and then we get that iconic scene where he's on the fucking airplane and he's trying to get away, and he fights that one dude, and we get that pretty kind of gruesome scene where the fucking dude gets his head kind of decapitated from that fucking airplane.
Yeah, airplane, which also is another scene when they're trying to escape in the airplane and all that. That's also a scene that I was on a ride in Disney World where they showed.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
that's
but
cool.
They didn't show the decapitation or anything. But yeah, and basically, weren't they captured and they had to dig?
Yeah, that's later in the film when basically they get there to Egypt and everything. They meet up with his friend and all that, and basically they end up having to dig the site, and the Nazis are into this and everything.
Yeah, and making them dig and all that. Yeah.
He refuses to basically. But there's something that involves where they get captured, and there's a theme that goes on where Indy's afraid of snakes, and basically he ends up.
They're digging for days in this one place, and they end up discovering it where it's possibly at, and it's full of snakes. Yeah, and they discover that.
Why did it have to be the snakes?
Yeah, this is when we get the iconic Indiana Jones can't stand snakes at all.
Yep. And then he basically ends up having...
You had to find some way to get it. Yeah. Where they're trying to, with all them snakes, and it's a lot of poisonous ones, too.
Yeah.
And it is a kind of an intense scene, too.
It is, yeah, definitely. And then basically all of them have to get out of there, and then the Nazis arrive and everything, and they seize the Ark from Indy, and then pretty much... they end up going to have
cut this.
It's been a while.
You see, you drank too much, did you?
No, I'm just trying to remember because it's been a while since I've seen it.
Now we're back on. All right, yeah, and basically the Nazis take Joan and Marion and all them captive when they discover the thing to take them to an area where they can unlock it.
Yeah,
unlock the secrets behind it. You get that one motherfucker with that glasses, that dickhead villain.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That was part of the Nazis.
Yeah, that he's pretty much your protagonist.
I remember that dude too because he was in that movie Red Sonja.
Yeah.
That dude always has like the distinctive face where he's always having that weird smile of his or whatever.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, when this all comes into fruition, they end up coming to the site where the Ark of the Covenant is, and the Nazis end up opening it somehow, and they unlock its key. And this is toward the end, and they basically...
It has powers.
It has powers where it's like ghosts inside, like spiritual spirits. And we get this iconic scene where... this was pretty ahead of its time for a PG movie. We fucking see like all the Nazis are like their faces are melting or melting. And
I'll tell you that graphics still hold up. And it looks like the Thing type graphics.
And to this day, that you could not get away with that in a PG rating. Like that shit was like so like brutal.
Yeah,
with their faces are melting and all that. It was like and basically Indy and Marion escape, and they end up having to. Break out and, take down the Nazis and stuff.
The last bit of them, yeah.
Yeah, and basically they end up, there's it ends up blowing up with everything in the sky.
Yep.
And the Ark's lid gets, they pretty much escape after they end up defeating the Nazis, and they end up going back to Washington, D.C., and pretty much the army decides to take the Ark someplace else and store it inside this like warehouse.
Yeah, and they store it, and then I think also Indy ends up becoming a proclaimed archaeologist, and he gets awarded and all that.
Yeah. And then pretty much it ends with him and Marcus, his friend, said that that they're showing that it pretty much ends where it shows the Ark going inside Hangar 51.
Yep.
And all that and
Area 51.
Yeah, which would be later known as Area 51.
51. Yeah.
So I gotta tell you, after
this is like we were talking about, we did a retro earlier of Rambo, and you know how Rambo 2 is the face of the Rambo franchise. Raiders of the Lost Ark ends up being the face of the Indiana Jones series.
Yeah,
because that's the one that's referred to the most.
Yeah, it is. I mean, Raiders of the Lost Ark is the one that everyone really accommodates for. Because even if you've never really seen the film, you can still see that iconic shot where he's running from the boulder and stuff. Yeah. And you have like the Ark of the Covenant and stuff like that.
And then we get the iconic lion tamer look of him.
Yeah,
and all that stuff. And basically, we get Indiana Jones. We get a character that is completely, fully developed perfectly.
Well, and not just that, but not only does Harrison Ford's performance like really capture great, but also ahead of its time, it showed a lot of vulnerability with the character because unlike some other action heroes that we would see during this decade, this was one of the first to really show that Indiana Jones actually has like when he's getting having that fight scene that he has with that mechanic, it shows the vulnerability of the character, which I enjoy.
We for the first time, especially in the 80s, we actually get a character who gets captured a lot. Indiana Jones has to outsmart his villains because he really isn't in 2 he kind of can fight, but he's not known as commando, should I say, where he can kick everybody's ass. They do very well getting his ass captured a lot and beat up.
Yeah, definitely. And also the relationship with him and Marion was also very great. And I especially love the music from John Williams, always outstanding.
Oh God, yeah.
And just like the overall and
not only that, for fucking early 80s movie, god damn, the cinematography is clear cut.
Yeah, it really holds up, and a lot of the action scenes, especially with them, going through the village and stuff, and you have.
I like how they use real snakes too.
Yeah, that too. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it shows that. It really gives you that fun adventure vibe.
It is I love these type of films. I don't think they catch them as well as they today as they used to back in the day. You get like everybody's trying to bring Tomb Raider back and all this, and we'll get later the newer Indiana Jones they made. Well, it's not new now, but was new. It's just like I don't think they can capture them as good as they can back in the day, but I love those type films.
Yeah, I do too. With the first Raiders of the Lost Ark with still being pretty much my favorite of the series.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with the phenomenal grade on the Film Phreeks meter.
Yeah, it's a phenomenal grade in Film Phreeks meter for me. I actually have it tied with another film as my favorite, and I don't know which one. And then I'm gonna go into more detail why, and I'm probably gonna get criticized this, but oh well, that's my opinion. So yeah.
All right.
So 3 years later.
So after Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark came out, it showed that this was a huge success in a very iconic film that already from the get-go. Like, this film put not only Steven Spielberg like on the map, but also Harrison Ford in a new fucking light, basically.
Yeah.
And it changed the way of action films also. And so it was granted that a sequel would follow. And then
they made Indiana Jones an iconic character.
Yes, they did. And then 4 years later, they ended up doing, or 3 years, they ended up doing a sequel, which was called Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, which to this day was actually a prequel to the first film, which I never knew until recently.
I didn't either.
This is, once again, is directed by Spielberg and brings back, everyone, including Harrison Ford, and also brings back George Lucas writing and everything.
But because it's a prequel, because he never met that one chick.
Yeah, this is actually, it was actually, I don't know whose idea was it, but each film that they did, for the first 3 films, they wanted to change the love interest for each film. Because instead of doing Marion for everyone, they wanted to do a different one.
It wasn't until 4 they actually brought it back. Yeah.
So with this one, they changed the love interest, and this was actually Steven Spielberg's wife in real life, who was played by Kate Capshaw at the time. And this one, it's a couple of years before, or 1 or 2 years before the events of Raiders, and it deals with Indiana Jones having to. He's basically undercover in China. It's in Shanghai, and basically he has he's going undercover to meet with this crime boss, and basically it deals with
he was wanting this little clear crystal jewel thing, and basically they're sitting there trying to go back and forth to see how much so and forth, but you know how crime bosses are. There's no matter what you're doing, they're gonna fuck you and stuff. And before all that goes, there's this girl that starts singing, which is the opening of the movie.
Yeah,
and
which is Willie.
Yeah, Willie. Her character name is. She's a singer, and basically, the crime boss are going back and forth. And basically, they set it up to where they made him drink a poison thing.
Yeah, and then pretty much it's discovered that his friend that's also with them that was undercover as well,
played by an 11-year-old boy, which you've seen in Goonies.
Short Round is the sidekick's name. And basically they end up having to escape after this goes down, and already from the get-go, it really pulls you into the action from the get-go.
Yeah, I think he was saving Willie's character. That's how she got in the mix.
And then they basically escape. And if you pay attention, they actually come across Dan Aykroyd for a second, because Dan Aykroyd plays the guy who's in the hangar going out to give him the plane and everything. Yeah. That's actually him.
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I didn't realize that until a few years later, a few years ago, and I was like, holy shit, that's Dan Aykroyd.
Yeah.
And so they end up escaping, and then pretty much
he starts talking shit to that Chinese guy and realize they're getting on the crime boss's plane, and then he knows that they're gonna fucking be able to bail out and kill him anyways.
Yeah.
So this is when they're flying. You start going over until they get to India, and they wake up. They're I'll get into when we get our pros and cons about this, but you get the Willie bickering back and forth, scared at the situation what they get her mixed up in, and what she's in mixed up, and then they start noticing something isn't right. They go and they find out that the pilot's abandoned the plane, and parachuted out, and so nobody knows how to fly a plane, so they had to come up with a way of getting off, and there was no parachutes. They got rid of the parachutes, so they had to use a kind of life preserver boat, like if you crash in water, and kind of float very realistically.
Yeah, because they have this little float thing that they use to dive out as a parachute, because there's no parachutes, and they throw it down after the plane is crashing, and they end up going down the mountains and stuff. Well, they go in the water, going down the stream and everything.
And then they realize they're coming up to a big ass fucking waterfall. Yeah,
and then they end up arriving eventually at this village it's in India.
Yeah,
and basically the villagers believe that they've been sent by this person, this known like figure named Shiva, to retrieve like this stone that was stolen from their
they
shrine.
believe that Indiana Jones was sent by some god to help them. And basically Indiana Jones and them, they're so far out, they really need help, but these people won't help them unless they can do something for them.
Yeah.
So they go, okay, we'll go where we gotta go, and it's in Bangkok Palace is what they call it, or the name of the place they gotta go, Bangkok. Pankot Palace.
Yeah.
And basically it's a really weird fucking place.
Yeah. And they go in there, and at first they're kind of welcomed by...
let's talk about the journey they get there. Man, they just, like, it's actually kind of scary. They, like, really want you to be scared of those jungles, because, man, there's, like, fucking all kinds of snakes popping up.
Yeah, Indy's fear of snakes.
The boa constrictor. I actually really dig his chemistry with Short Round.
Yeah, like the
playing cards.
Where they're playing cards together and everything.
And Short Round's cheating and shit.
Yeah.
And I actually kind of adore their relationship.
I do too. I find it very genuine, and I know a lot of people have given, Short Round a lot of criticism over the years, but I actually find his character very, funny and very likable throughout the film.
I found their relationship adorable. Like, it feels like a son that he never had.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And then basically, you get Willie, which getting scared of all these surroundings, because you can tell she's a city woman, and basically these Indian people are taking them, and then they come up to this kind of figure that's bleeding.
Yeah.
And they start freaking the fuck out, and basically they find the palace, and they go to this palace, and this is where like they're all like rich and kingy looking and stuff and all that.
And then they start like giving them the rooms and everything, and then they start.
Well, they're in like they introduce themselves, and they basically they take them in and let them like eat all luxury. Indiana Jones has got which is never really explained, because this is supposed to be the official first ever trip he's ever done.
Yeah.
And there's apparently been so many trips before, and the guy that runs the facility actually knows his name.
Yeah,
which is it's the famous Indiana Jones.
I found that, if I remember, I think that was kind of a weird continuity error, because I think that at the time they didn't really think of it as a prequel, probably. Yeah, but they still established this movie as a prequel to Raiders.
Yeah. And then at this time, this actually takes around the time where the British occupied India, so you had like the British's like colonel there and all that, and they're all they're treated to an Indian cuisine, or kind of like a heritage thing, where they're offered to go eat. They get rooms, and they're offered to come eat dinner.
Yeah,
and basically they start eating and stuff, and this is probably the most disgusting scene in the movie.
Where they actually are serviced by like really nasty food. Like they actually literally eat monkey brains and stuff like that. Yeah. Like they're served monkey brains and things like that.
Yeah, monkey brains, a big old fucking boa constrictor, a python, and you had to eat its babies. And this scene's actually kind of funny, because you see Willie in Short Round getting grossed out and shit, and then especially the scene where the snakes come out, you see Willie faint.
Yeah.
But while this is going on, you meet this young little prince that runs the place. Well, kind of does and doesn't. and you see that Indiana Jones is getting a dialogue with that dude that lets him in, and then the fucking British people, and he's investigating Golly Ma. He goes, the stones, and you can tell that these people, like, you can tell the guys kind of getting a little, like, pushy, like, hey, you know, you're investigating a little too much. Why are you asking so many questions?
Yeah.
And he goes, I heard that there are slaves here. And they're like, no, you're hearing lies and shit like that. So, basically, Indiana Jones, they go to their room, and Indiana Jones is kind of having he's kind of attracted to
Willie, and he's making a decision like, should I go in her room?
I actually kind of find this funny.
This actually I thought worked with them two together.
Yeah.
Like this was the only scene I was like, okay, this was actually kind of you know, cute.
Yeah.
It showed him, you know, deciding whether or not he was gonna go into her room and everything. I was like, okay, that's a good scene.
Yeah.
And then basically eventually he ends up going into a secret passageway.
Well, first when he's in the room wondering what he's gonna do, I guess because he was asking so many questions, they had one of those little soldier guys come right in his room and they try to strangle him and kill him, and he ends up, you know, strangling the guy in the fan with his whip. Basically gets short round in her, Willie, and then they find this passage chain, and she kind of is attracted to him. And that part where he grabs the titty thing and then he goes in the temple.
Yeah.
She thinks he's like losing his mind and shit.
Yeah.
Because she goes, I'm right here. And he goes and grabs the I actually thought this was fucking funny as shit, though. But anyways, it leads to a secret passage, and this is another little something about bugs in this movie, man. They're really big on bugs because they ate a tarantula, roaches. Now they go in that one creepy. This makes my skin crawl where they're walking on the bugs.
Yeah.
And they look down in the lights.
That was
me.
Yeah, it gives me that vibe.
Well, anyways, they go through this thing. They almost get squashed by these spikes because Short Round, I love him. He's fucking hilarious. He accidentally bumps on that little button and almost kills them. Well, they get out, and then they find the secret temple that leads them to this underground world.
Yeah.
And it's being run by this really kind of dark cult. It's a dark cult.
Yeah.
And basically, they walk in, they see this part, which is probably the most gruesome scene.
This is the scene which, a little backstory on this, believe it or not, this was the film that actually caused the PG-13 rating, and that Steven Spielberg had caused to have the MPA create, because there's a scene right here that we're about to get to where this guy who's called the Kali, who's the guy, the Indian, who ends up doing a sacrifice that they're doing, and basically we have a scene where he actually literally rips a dude's heart out.
Yeah, he's like, Golly Ma, Golly Ma.
Yeah,
and it shows him slow, and I will say that practical's pretty gruesome.
That scene alone is what caused this movie, along with Gremlins, which was ironically also produced by Spielberg, are the movies that caused the PG-13 rating.
Yeah, and man, the way he gets in, dude, that was, man, that fucked up, man. And then while they're watching this, then they start seeing that, I mean, and we failed to explain earlier, not only are the villagers that sent Indiana Jones to this place lost their stones, but all their children were taken.
Yeah.
And they haven't seen their children in over a year. And then that's when they see that the children are being whipped and being put to work.
Yeah.
And basically, Indiana Jones gets spotted by one of the guys, and they capture Willie, Small Round, and him.
And he basically gets whipped and forced to drink this kind of potion.
No, it's blood.
Yeah,
makes him drink Golly Ma's blood or something. The thing that's fucking dripping out blood, it's like some kind of what it is, it's dark magic. And it fucks with their brain to the point that they become and think like them.
Yeah. And then he's putting these kids that are in these slave kind of trade or whatever.
Yeah. Well, he did,
he puts Short Round in where all these kids are, and they're like in the slave trade.
And then Willie was in a cage, and then they do they had this part where they fucking make they make Indiana Jones drink that, and he's all fucking screaming. I will say that was a pretty fucking dark fucking scene. This movie is fucking pretty dark, man. This
out of the franchise, this is probably the most darkest and most brutalist too.
Yeah, it is. And so he starts it makes him change, and they make they make it. Oh, and by the way, when they rip that dude's heart out, that they take him down that lava, and that dude burns alive.
Yeah,
they bring that fucking spot. I like that fucking chant they do.
Yeah.
Da 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 da.
Yeah.
And then Indiana Jones is ordered to do it to Willie, and he's already brainwashed, so he thinks like that one motherfucker, and they, act like they're gonna rip her heart out, but they don't. For some reason, they don't try to do it to her. They just fucking put her in that little burning thing.
Yeah.
And then Short Round was able to find out that if you get them near fire, then that potion wears off.
Yeah.
And that potion wears off, and Indiana Jones comes to mind, and basically he pulls Willie up from being burned alive, and basically tells her, says, "All right, we gotta get the hell out of here." And then Indiana Jones said, "Wait, I got one more thing to do," because he grabs the stones, and then he fucking he ends up the part where the kids are getting whipped, and next you get that. To me, I think is the second most iconic song, other than the one we're known for, throughout the whole thing. You get the music.
Oh, the music.
Score. Yeah, this is the second most iconic song. Where
you have the tunnel.
and then he starts beating the shit out of all these guys and all the kids. He starts unlocking them all, and they all start helping Indiana Jones out.
This to me is one of my all-time favorite
triumphant
adventure scenes from an action franchise.
And to me, because this is the first movie I've seen of the franchise, I for some reason I'll get into more detail why I like this movie so much. But not only that, if you guys remember that the NES and games in the past adapted this movie, they didn't really do much of Raiders, or I wasn't really familiar with the Raiders game. This Temple of Doom was the well-known NES game. It was kind of... It wasn't that great.
They had games of all the movies, but Temple of Doom
was the well-known
one.
Yeah, Raiders I didn't really know existed.
It did, but it was on Atari.
Yeah.
But this scene alone with the tunnel and stuff, that is like one of the best chase sequences.
Oh my god! And not only that water thing, and then you finally see that Prince guy come down in there.
Yeah.
And he's trying to fucking stab and kill fucking Short Round, and then he was able to put the fire out, put that potion, and the Prince was even under the thing, and she was. I couldn't tell if it was a boy or girl. It was kind of hard because he had a high pitched voice.
I couldn't remember.
It was a boy. But anyways, he's guiding him out of here, telling him to take the left tunnel, and basically you have the Indiana Jones. He's fighting that one big motherfucker, that big buff motherfucker.
Yeah.
And you met that part where he almost got his head crushed in a rock.
Yeah.
And he beats the shit out of that dude, and basically they get in the chase scene with her. One of my favorite parts of the movie where they're you got them in the little rail car thing.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The rail car tunnel.
And the soldiers are after them. And it's actually kind of funny because they're like putting like shit in the way, and then a motherfucker will fly off.
Yeah.
It's actually a pretty cool thing. But then like that one motherfucking villain dude with the skull head, the main collar, whatever his name is.
Yeah.
He fucking orders them to tip this water thing over.
Yeah.
To shoot them out. And basically, the water starts filling up water, and it's going after them. Next, Indiana Jones looks back and sees this big old tidal wave after them, and they get out, and basically they realize that there's no way out because it's a fucking 100-foot drop off into an alligator pit.
Yeah.
So basically,
Mola Ram is the main bad guy.
Mola Ram. Yeah. So, anyways, they're all hanging off on the side of this fucking... Well, first, it's not... Yeah, it's a side... Yeah, they're hanging off the side of this mountain thing, and the water starts coming out, and they climb up, and they get on this bridge, and that's where Molan and that fucking... Got them kind of surrounded on both sides.
Yeah.
And Indiana Jones says, hold on. And she goes, "Oh no!" And he fucking he cuts the fucking bridge in half, and they all start falling. This is actually a pretty intense scene because if you fall off, it shows them getting torn up by alligators, and crocodiles, and shit. I'm like, motherfucker! And there's a scene where they're all fighting, then you get
on that bridge.
Scene. Yeah, well, I've already passed the bridge.
Yeah,
They cut the bridge, and they're hanging and shit. And now they're hanging on this bridge, which is falling apart, and everybody's falling off. And Indiana Jones almost gets kicked off of this part and stuff. But anyways, you get the scene where him and that main motherfucker are sitting there. The motherfucker's like, "The stones are mine."
He's like, "You betrayed Shiva."
Yeah, and he starts doing the golly maul, trying to rip out his heart. Indiana Jones, he goes, "You betrayed Shiva."
Yeah. And then he just burns his hand, and then he basically loses.
Well, what it is, the rock starts lighting up, and then they lose 2 out of 3 of the rocks, and then right whenever that motherfucker tries to catch that one, Indiana Jones kicks him off, and then you see that motherfucker screaming, and he banged his head. It reminded me of pinball. He's banging against the rocks. It was kind of funny though. And then just in time, the British military show up and they start shooting all the other soldiers and capturing them. And basically, this is actually, I love the fucking ending to this because it shows Indiana Jones rides back with to the village to deliver that rock, and that guy said it was basically telling him thank you. And next you know, he hugs up, he gives back, and then all the kids start running to their parents. And he saves the kids. And that was the coolest fucking scene, seeing them run to they haven't seen their children so long.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah.
And we get that, scene where they're on their way out. They're riding on the elephants and stuff.
Well, and they start kissing, and all the kids are and the elephant sprays her and shit. Yeah. And then, it's over. I will say that I'm going to get fucking absolutely probably shit on for saying this, but to me, this is actually one of my most rewatchability Indiana Jones films.
It is.
And for some reason, it is tied as my favorite of the franchise. With Raiders. This, can't explain it. Something about it, I love this Indiana Jones.
I agree. There's a lot of things I love about this movie. The way that the film takes a more darker direction than the first film does.
And it doesn't do the Nazis for once.
It does
something different.
Well, because it's also a prequel, so it kind of was taking a lot less turn with it. But it also works in that regard because you're starting to get the early days of Indy when he was who he was. And also just the fun vibe of, the creativity with the mines and the Indians and stuff. It has so much going on with it.
Well, yeah, inside the minings. And,
I'll admit, as far as scale, they did push more of the adventure aspect more in this film than they did with Raiders. But I still feel like it's not as on par with Raiders, because Raiders I felt was better written.
Yeah,
as far as the story.
All right, it's got a better written story, because I will admit, as much as I love Temple of Doom, I will say there is some plot holes, and I will say I'm not a big fan of Willie's character.
Yeah, that's my other big thing. I'm not the biggest fan of Kate Capshaw as Willie. I thought that a lot of her scenes, she whines, and she was very too annoying at times. There was probably 1 or 2 scenes I didn't mind her too much in, but a lot of time I was more interested with Indy and Short Round.
They gotta have a woman in this somewhere, but I preferred him in Short Round.
Yeah, if it would have focused more and more of them, it would have probably been a lot better.
Really, she's useless in the movie.
Yeah,
they just had to have a girl in the movie.
Yeah,
you got to have your lady, the love interest.
Yeah,
really. But I will say that the villain was vicious in this.
Yeah, he was definitely, and for since they pushed the R rating with this movie, I was really surprised they got away with that. And this, keep in mind, this is the same film along with Gremlins that actually created the PG-13 rating.
Yeah. And this is the only one that doesn't portray Nazis, which I think is a nice, different tone to it.
Yeah.
And it's a worthy fucking villains.
It is it did cause also controversy because the way they portray Indian stereotypes, because that was also a big controversy at the time.
Yeah.
But I didn't mind it so much because I liked that it was a different feel compared to the first movie.
Yeah, it was. I like it was a different tone, and I will say that him and Short Round's relationship was like so cute, so adorable.
Yeah,
because he loved him. He loves him. I actually wish that we could have saw him play in the other movies.
Yeah, I know, I do too.
Yeah, I thought he was like, if Indiana Jones needed a Robin, it should have been Short Round.
Definitely.
Yeah,
and with that being said, I'm going to give the movie not as great as Raiders, but still very, very enjoyable. With that, I'm giving it a low phenomenal grade on the Film Freaks meter.
I'm giving it a phenomenal grade in the Film Freaks meter too.
Fair enough. And so after the success of Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, which was a huge success, there was a lot of problems behind after this movie came out, because since this movie caused quite a lot of controversy.
This was a heavily mixed.
Yeah, this was a heavily mixed compared to the first one, and even to this day, Spielberg has reflected back on it, saying that this was one of those films that he wasn't the biggest proud of after looking back on it, because of all the stuff that he pushed with.
Yeah.
But he does. It is the film that he talked to the MPA about creating the PG-13 rating.
Yeah.
So the impact with that also got into it. Okay. But after this came out, basically we didn't see Indiana Jones for quite a while until the following year, where we had. Basically, after this came out, we had the next film, which was Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. And this is the film that I honestly, I didn't actually see this film until a lot years later.
That came out,
and this came out in 1989.
Yeah, so this was a hiatus for a while.
Yeah.
That's a 5-year hiatus, 5 years. Yeah. 84 was Temple of Doom, wasn't it?
Actually, Temple of Doom was, 84.
So it's 5-year hiatus.
Yep. Yeah, 5-year hiatus, and then once again, it's co-written by George Lucas again, and this time we deal where it's set now in 1938, which is a few years after Raiders, and this is basically
it's a different kind of opening because it's when he's a kid.
Yeah, it actually starts out with a young Indiana Jones
played by River Phoenix.
River Phoenix, who's if you remember, he was the brother. He was the brother of Joaquin Phoenix,
which sadly passed away.
Yeah, in the early 90s. And basically, this film deals where it starts out where he's actually seeing like some stuff going on. Where in the beginning we see that. He's like in the Ackers National Park, and basically he's going through the caves of his friend.
Yeah,
and he's with a Boy Scout group because he's part of a Boy Scouts. And basically when he goes to the caves, he discovers there's these people that are trying to rob this golden crucifix that's belonging to the Coronado, and they steal it. And basically...
and on a train, like hijacked.
Yeah, that's
train.
right. He ends up going on a train and everything, and he ends up leaving with pretty much having to escape from these guys and everything, and then he ends up going back home, and that's when we see that his dad, tells him about, what he's been doing and everything. And while we don't see him, we can hear Sean Connery's voice indicating that this is his dad,
Yeah.
And so... The film picks up in 1938, where we have Indy pretty much... going off this ship, and pretty much in Portugal. That's where it's at.
Yeah.
And
Portugal.
Yeah, Portugal, and he basically he ends up battling this Panama hat.
Portugal.
Yeah, Portugal. And pretty much he escapes overboard, and he ends up going before the ship pretty much blows up, and he ends up going to. He ends up basically gets the cross back that was from the beginning of the film.
Yeah,
and he ends up returning it and donates and gives it to his friend Marcus's museum.
Yeah,
and basically he ends up talking to this guy named Walter, who tells him that his dad has been disappeared since he was looking for the Holy Grail.
Yeah, and he was pretty much captured by the Nazis.
Mm-hmm. And they're looking for this type of stone tablet that they're looking for, and basically he has to go rescue his dad. And so the rest of the film deals where Indy has to go look for his dad while also trying to get away from the Nazis and stuff, like Raiders. And then he also has a relationship with this girl named Elsa, who is
Isn't she like French or German? She's also another Nazi, German Nazi. Yeah.
That's the thing. Later on, I was discovered that she is part of the Nazis, but she's German. Yes.
Yeah, she's German.
Well, she's Austrian.
Yeah, Austrian.
And basically, she knows. But there's a library that they go to where. They discovered that there's basically catacombs that they have this thing called the First Crusade Night, and it contains like a version of the stuff that his dad used.
Yeah, and basically it's kind of like the Holy Grail trying to get the Fountain of Youth type thing, and we saw it in Stranger Tides.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
In Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah, and then basically when they end up coming to. When they end up going to rescue his dad and everything, we get that scene where Indy himself gets captured with his dad, and
by the Nazis,
Nazis and stuff, and they have this banter back and forth where they're talking about how they escape and stuff, and
which is my other favorite co-partner.
Already from the get-go, I can always say, not to get my pros out of the way, but the chemistry between Harrison Ford and Sean Connery is so fucking outstanding.
Great. Yes, it is outstanding.
The father-son dynamic is so absolutely
you could have
great.
not got a better father figure than Sean Connery. Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, come on, Dad.
Yeah, and they're just bitching back and forth. And basically, they're taken captive by the Nazis, and they're taken over to Europe, over to Germany and stuff. And we actually see a part where somebody plays Hitler in this movie.
And he actually walks by Indy, and he just gives him this look. And
they're burning books.
Yeah.
And he has a book in his fucking hand, and that book actually has the scriptures to what to do when they go to the Holy Grail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then pretty much they end up, going from there and pretty much...
and you get that hot air balloon part?
Where they...
And if you guys remember, isn't that the famous one where it blew up in Germany?
Did. Yeah. They end up they get it's a Zeppelin and they leave Germany but then the Nazis they find out where they are at and they escape in a plane instead.
Yeah.
And then they end up crashing down while they're going through trying to escape from all the Nazis.
Yeah.
And then they end up meeting up with his friend from the first film. If you remember, John Rhys Davis' character, he comes back in this one, and they end up learning about what happened to his friend Marcus because he got captured.
Yeah.
And pretty much the Nazis are they're trying to look for him and everything. And basically, the rest of the film, they're trying to get to where his friend's at, and also where they can find out where the Holy Grail is and stuff. Mm-hmm. And basically, it kind of goes into kind of close to the final climax. Well, not the final climax, but toward later on, we also get into this desert scene where he starts like fighting tanks and stuff, and he starts having to... This is actually one of the rare cases where I'll say that, unlike Rambo 3, this to me, I actually kind of buy Indy more in the fucking desert than Rambo.
Yeah, I agree.
Because he actually was able to take out these guys left and right, but also still taking damage. Because Indy still feels pain when he's still going through all the stuff.
Basically, they find where like this big desert thing, which is actually a famous spot in Jordan. It's actually in Jordan where you can actually go see the spot, and it's basically this. It looks like it's built inside of a mountain.
Yeah, that's right.
And it's actually a pretty place, they say. And I actually watched some YouTube videos of people going, and basically that's where the Holy Grail thing supposedly is. And they go in there, and basically we get this like really twist turn, which did not see coming, where the dad actually gets shot by the Nazi dude.
Yeah,
because they both were like, "Oh, I ain't doing it. I ain't going," and stuff. And basically, this one villain motherfucker ain't playing, so he shoots the dad.
Yeah, he shoots,
and he's dying.
Yeah,
it was like fuck.
Yeah, and then basically because they end up discovering the Holy Grail, and when they discover it, they discover there's this knight that's been there for over like centuries and stuff.
Yeah, and
they realize that the Holy Grail can be filled with holy water, and basically they fill.
They shot the dad only to make Indy to have a purpose in going in there. Mm-hmm. I will say this is the traps in this that he has to beat, because unlike in the first one where it's actually booby traps, this is like more of like a quiz. Like, like he has to like, all right, 2 + 4 is this, and if he steps like in the wrong area, and it gives you algorithms and stuff. And if you don't know the algorithm, you'll die. You'll fall through things. You remember like the spike, that blade that comes out of nowhere?
I remember that. Yeah,
stuff. And so he goes through, and then that one where you have to trust jumping off a cliff, and you fall in that room and stuff. You don't know it. You think that you'll fall to your death if you jump. Kind of remind me of the Mario Brothers where they fell off that thing.
That shit.
But anyways, they find it, and there's this knight that it's almost like he's been sitting there forever for somebody to come in there.
Yeah, for so long, and then basically,
and if they are given this test to drink out of this like these tube things, and you gotta drink out this
the Holy Grail,
and if you drink the wrong one, you die.
Yeah, and so he fills it with holy water and then gives it to his dad, and then he was able to give him back to life.
Well, the villain dude drinks the wrong. He turns into the Crypt Keeper.
Yeah, I remember that shit.
He turns into the Crypt Keeper. I thought he was gonna go. Yeah. But anyways, that comes to an end right there, and
then basically his Elsa, who if you remember earlier, she, as we found out that she betrayed Indy, or we end up finding out that she betrays Indy because she ends up working with the Nazis and stuff, and she tries to take the Grail and tries to leave with it.
Yep.
And then basically when everything goes to shit, she ends up falling to her death, and Indy can't end up losing her. It's still recording.
But
but then it pretty much ends where they all end up pretty much leaving after that, and they end up escaping and going off into the sunset.
Yep.
Now I gotta admit that over the years, it took a long time before I was able to actually watch The Last Crusade, and I'll admit, I'm on a rarity here. I do love it a little, just a tiny bit more compared to Temple Doom on certain writing aspects.
Yeah.
On entertainment level, there's certain things that Temple Doom does better.
Yeah.
But I still love what Last Crusade does as far as the overall story.
Yeah, but you want to hear the weird thing is, and this is because I was a younger kid. Actually, when I first watched The Last Crusade, I was kind of bored with it. It was surprisingly as a kid.
Really?
It wasn't until I really went back again. I was like, oh, I liked it. I loved it. I love this movie. It's just, I don't know, I'm just going by as a kid.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, you ever see that?
I could see that, yeah. Like, if I was a kid,
like it was kind of more of a boring...
Yeah. If I was a kid, I would probably be more into, like, Temple of Doom, probably, when I was a kid.
But it's ironically, now I'm, 32 years old, and I fucking still like Temple of Doom, and Raiders of the Lost Ark is my favorite. And, I still enjoyed this film, but until we get to the fourth film, I'm just going to ignore the fourth film and just talk about the first three. Last Crusade would be to me, while they're all phenomenally good movies, it's just, I feel like the third one would be my least like out of the three.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah.
I can see that. Like Last Crusade doesn't hit like the hype, like quite as like the high mark as say Raiders of the Lost Ark does as far as story, but as far as like still concluding the trilogy at the time, it's still like given the fun adventure vibe. It combines both movies like together for me.
Yeah, and not with that, each one of them do their own thing. While the second one is the darkest and bloodiest, the first one is the most adventure and story driven. The third one is the most emotional.
Yeah, it is definitely.
Yeah. Well, that's why I really enjoyed the motions. But other than that, with that being said, I thought him and Sean Connery's chemistry was fucking perfect.
Absolutely,
as father and son. It was the emotional impact that you thought the dad was going to actually die was pretty fucked up.
Yeah, and just
and then the booby trap thing was actually pretty cool.
Yeah,
I liked it. It wasn't booby traps. It was more like being smart.
Yeah,
and
like
solving puzzles and stuff. And other than that, this one though, however, I'm gonna bump down into a extremely high, compelling grade in Film Phreeks meter.
Fair enough. I'm giving this one about the same grade I give with Temple of Doom. Like it's I like it a little on the same level as Temple of Doom, but I like it better as far as story wise. But as far as entertainment, they're about as equal. But so with that being said, I'm giving this movie a kind of a low phenomenal grade on the Film Phreeks meter, but still a great movie. Now, after Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade came out, it was pretty much at this point, they were pretty much, Spielberg felt like it was done with, the franchise was done at this franchise. It was a good closure, which I agree. At the time, this was probably the best trilogy that they could come up with.
Yeah, because you got father and son that just pretty much rolled off in the sunset.
Yeah. And I liked that they at least closed it out. So it really felt like they were pretty much done with the series for a long time. And after this, you know, we had various video games that came out that were based on Indiana Jones, which I actually played one of them recently, which was Indiana Jones and the temple of it was like the Emperor's Tomb or something.
Yeah, the Emperor's Tomb. Yeah,
it was set before the events of Temple of Doom.
Yeah. And see, the only one I've ever played was the NES Temple of Doom. The one where you're on that little
I remember that
conveyor belt
and it keeps going on and on,
and it's like you keep falling and shit. Yeah, that shit pissed me the fuck off.
Yeah. But that was the only one I played was the Emperor's Tomb, and it was a pretty fun game for when I played it. Yeah. But there were various different things that they had of Indiana Jones, and believe it or not, in the early '90s, they actually had a TV series that came out called The Young Indiana Jones Adventures, which, believe it or not, it was showing the origins of Indiana Jones when he was a kid and everything, and they actually were able to get Harrison Ford playing like future versions of like the older Indiana Jones.
That's cool.
So, but I never watched the show, but I heard it was actually pretty popular among fans of the movies.
Yeah, I haven't seen it. So
but anyway, so with the Indiana Jones, like they pretty much took a hiatus for a long time because you got to think since Spielberg pretty much ended it with Last Crusade. Yeah, we didn't think they were ever going to do another one for a long time. Yeah, and then basically when in 2006, after Stallone came out with like with Rocky Balboa and Rambo and stuff, it was pretty much established that we were kind of getting this trend of bringing back old franchises and continuing with old films, like with Live Free or Die Hard, Rambo, and all them. Yep. So it was kind of established that Spielberg would kind of go back to that again. Yeah. And so in 2007, we were getting news that broke out that said that we were going to get a new Indiana Jones film coming out. Yep. And they were saying that it was going to be, again, directed by Spielberg and bringing Indiana Jones and Harrison Ford back, and also George Lucas back. And you got to think at this point, since George Lucas had just finished the trilogy of the Star Wars prequels, we were a little worried at first because
he didn't get a good track record after doing that. Yeah,
so it was. But after
him being a control freak can ruin movies.
Mm-hmm. And in regards to the trailers, I'll admit when I first heard about the film coming out, I didn't really pay attention to it because I never really watched the Indiana Jones films when they first came out.
I remember I was hyped because the trailer is very hypeable because you get the scene in shadows, then you see the hat and the whip. Yeah, and I was like, "Fucking A, yes!" I couldn't wait to see this movie, man.
Yeah. And then pretty much what came out was in 2008 we got Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, which is pretty much the fourth film that pretty much a lot of fans say doesn't even exist because they consider
and rightfully so on a lot of cases.
I can agree, but before we get into that, this film, it's once again directed by Spielberg, and this time it's set about 20 years
directed by
later.
Spielberg, but told to shut up why George Lucas said, "I'm going to do everything."
Yeah,
movie.
It's still
that's basically what I see it as.
Yeah, and
George Lucas did this movie.
Yeah, I'm fairly convinced that Lucas did this. And basically, it's set in 1957, which is about 20 years after the original, after Last Crusade. Yeah, and this time we deal with Indy, who's now a lot older now, and he's there's a plot that deals where at the beginning we see that the film pretty much him and his friend Mac are pretty much are kidnapped by these Nazis.
They ain't Nazis, it's Soviets.
Well, Soviets. I'm sorry, the Russians, who's now played by this Kate Blanchett's character, Irina Spoko, who basically go to the Area 51 location,
and they want to steal some of the stuff.
And they actually, what's interesting, I will admit, this opening scene was actually pretty clever. They do show the Ark of the Covenant from Raiders.
Yeah, and they do make the area the from back in the first movie when they made the Area 51, the 51 building, they make it look exactly the same. So
which I thought was pretty cool.
That was cool.
And basically, Indy ends up escaping from all that, and they end up
doing his whip thing.
Yeah, which you
playing the music,
playing the music, and you already from the get go when they first reveal Indiana Jones, I thought this was a great way to show
open where they throw him out of the car. And stuff.
Well, no, it first shows his hat, and then it shows the turning blades, and you see him turn around, and it shows Indiana Jones right there.
Yeah, I do like how it wants you to build up this. Wait, it's almost there.
Yeah, and then you see Indy right there.
Yeah.
And then pretty much after, and then it's revealed that it's revealed that his friend Mac is pretty much working with the Soviets because he's a double agent.
Yeah.
And basically, Indy escapes, and he ends up retrieving the body for this corpse that was from this UFO incident.
Yeah.
And after he ends up going to beat down with this henchman that he goes down with, he ends up going to this pretty much the scene that creates kind of a controversy. We get into the scene where Indy ends up going to this nuclear test site in the desert.
Yeah.
Where he ends up going to this town that's pretty much a nuclear test site.
Famous in the 50s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he ends up hearing that there's basically a bomb that's about to go off for minutes.
They're portraying it like, because this is around the Cold War era, preparing for war, nuclear war, and basically he hears sirens, and he goes, "Oh, that ain't no good."
And pretty much we get the most controversial scene where he gets in a fucking fridge and ends up taking and he ends up a nuclear explosion happens, and he hides in a refrigerator, which to me. Yeah, I'm really not the biggest fan of this scene right here because, to be honest, I can buy the shit that he did in the other films where, he's running from the plane from Temple of Doom and shit like that.
Well, a lot of those the first three movies show blood or him injured or whatever. He walks out of this after flying a goddamn 3 miles in fucking air, and then he's not even fucking hurt.
Yeah.
He's an old man.
That's what I'm saying. The vulnerability, you can already tell from the get-go.
Vulnerability is gone in this movie.
Yeah. It's just not there, and it just really takes a lot of the believability out of the film. So then we see that he escapes out of this, surprisingly, and then he ends up getting... he ends up leaving and ends up going back to where his town.
And to the college where you see him always teaching at the beginning.
And this is cool because they at least go back to the original film again and everything. But then the movie kind of gets into one of the characters that I really felt was so fucking miscast and unnecessary. We get introduced to Shia LaBeouf's character who's
playing a greaser
around the 50s era.
Yeah, and he's a biker greaser dude that's kind of a fucking asshole to society. A fucking shitbag that fails at school, skips, doesn't do anything, gets arrested, he's a delinquent, and so forth. And this is basically where we start getting into this is where they take something so good from the 80s and classic and then want to give it a 2000 look to it. Yeah. You start getting the new people that's going to take over Helm.
The young generation.
Yeah, the young generation taking over Helm. And then basically, you got Indiana Jones runs in, I don't know. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to be honest with you, I can't remember why them two... He doesn't know this is his son yet, but I don't understand why them two start working together at the beginning.
Well, it's because basically he tells him that...
I can't remember. Because I want to tell you right now, this movie's very forgettable.
There's somebody that discovers that there's a crystal skull in Peru and was later kidnapped. He explains that he was a longtime friend of his mom, and he was
That's right,
basically
yes.
he was trying to return the skull to somewhere called Akator.
Yeah, he uses Indian because he was told by us, in which we reveal it's the woman from the first movie.
Yeah.
But he had to go directly to Indy because she knew, obviously she was with Indy years ago, and she knows that he can get it.
Yeah.
If anybody can get it, Indy can get it.
Yeah.
So she sets it up like that. So they go to Peru, whatever to go to. And this one does a lot with the mines. Mines, ancient mines and stuff. Which is clever.
Which
I
is
like
interesting.
the whole jungle
I say,
and the deserty
the first
mines.
hour, I'll admit, it actually feels like Spielberg. It's like his movie, basically. Because the first hour, it actually feels like classic Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
It actually feels like we're going on an adventure to get look for the crystal skull and everything, and be able to, go on things like that. And around the hour point, it starts to really dive down because you can tell that George Lucas started really calling the shots, taking over.
Well, let me get into this. While we got these uncareable fucking villains, the Soviets, even Kate Blanchett can't even save this. Wanting after Indiana Jones and want this crystal skull thing. You get where we get a famous comeback love of his life, Marion coming back in the movie, and I almost get kind of a sense of Willie in this scene because it seems like them two know nothing but fucking bicker. Well, maybe not as annoying, and it was cool to see her back because she was really good.
But honestly, that's the other thing too. Not to get in my cons yet. Yeah. I found that her being returned, while it is cool on paper, she really had no fucking purpose in this movie.
Yeah, she doesn't have no purpose other than... and then abruptly says, oh, well, this is our son. It's just... It comes off as just thrown at you unexpectedly and carelessly without no build-up.
Yeah.
And this was around the time when we were at the Shia LaBeouf height.
Yeah.
From Transformers.
And
And Disturbia. He did so many other fucking movies. He was doing everything.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh my god, one of these Sun movies. And you gotta think we were also dealing with the Mummies did that with the Sun.
And Die Hard 5.
Die Hard 5 did the Sun. I mean, everybody was doing the Sun.
But one thing I will give credit for is that this film at least showed that Indy was still doing things on his own.
Yeah, at least Indy was still saying, everything else is a mess, I'm going to still be Indy.
Yeah.
And I will say the setting with the mines and the jungle with the little mine deserty thing mixed together still blends very well. But yeah, they're basically being chased by the Soviets through the jungle to where they're at. Going to this location to where I guess they had to take the crystal skull to bring a UFO, because they're trying to, basically the Soviets want the UFOs, alien technology. Yeah. Is what they want. Because it's supposed, alien technology is so far advanced. Yeah. That's basically what they're going for.
Yeah, and then along the way they come across... it kind of makes sense. I get what they were leading up to.
Because that's what Russians are known for.
Right, and they also come across John Hurt's character, who has a kind of history of Indian at point, but I'm kind of like, we've never met you before. How do you really know who he is?
I know.
But anyway...
While these movies do realize each other that this is the fourth movie, the thing about the Indiana Jones saga together is the fact that they never talk about the previous movies.
Yeah.
So they're all standalones in a way.
Pretty much. Yeah. But anyway, they end up going along the journey, and then this is pretty much where it becomes a lot of George Lucas-esque, where we get to a lot of scenes that are so fucking CGI and green screen to the point that chase sequence, it becomes a Star Wars prequel.
Yeah, this chase sequence reminds me of Star Wars, where they're going through the jungle, somehow able to go 100 miles an hour without slapping into a tree, can slide on side of cliffs without falling off.
Yeah, and you have fucking CGI monkeys
that's picked up Shia LaBeouf and throwing him around. CGI ants kill one of Blanchett's fucking men.
Well, this is the scene where Indy's actually getting into a fight, which is really the only scene where he shows kind of vulnerability, where he's kind of fighting with that Russian dude, and he ends up...
it's amazing that Temple of Doom can have bugs and real bugs, and they look legit, and they were real.
But they had to use fucking CGI.
fucking for ants.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I understand maybe for the mouth part, because they go inside that dude and eat them, which is kind of nasty and creepy, and they can pick people up and stuff. That is cool. But everything, I was like, what the fuck, man? And this is where it's a CGI fucking mess. It is just a CGI fucking mess. And then you try to create a Willy type situation where him and his son are bantering back and forth. Now that they established that you're my son, you're grounded, boy, when we get home. Yeah. It's like, I'm not feeling this. I'm sorry. People give Short Round shit. Him and Short Round was lovable chemistry. He was. This is fucking annoying.
Yeah, and that's one of the things too. Like, I mean, I like Shia LaBeouf in some things. Like, and when he's good with some movies, he can be good with. But here, I felt he was entirely first of all, he's miscast, and I felt like his presence just is not fucking needed in this movie.
Like, basically, I think that if you were to do a true son, Chris Pratt would be.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
But anyway, so they're going on around this, and we get into them going along the camp and stuff.
And then they go through that Aztec thing. Yeah. And they're actually attacked by Indian Aztec.
Yeah, and then
they were creepy looking.
They were, yeah. And we also get the reveal about how his friend Mac is pretty much betraying him again, which I will admit, on a writing standpoint, it was fucking stupid. Because the fact that he's betraying him, and then not betraying him, and then he's betraying him again, it's like, they can't make their fucking minds up.
That's like, it's just like having a wife, and you have a friend that says he's your friend, but he ends up trying to fuck your wife. And then you see him 2 months later down the road, forgive and forget. He tries to fuck your wife again. Yeah. Then you don't see him for a year. He comes around again, tries to fuck your wife again. That's basically what they keep doing with that motherfucker.
Yeah, like, and even Indy points out, it's like, so you're a triple agent? You know, it's like, yeah, why? This character was so inconsistent.
Yeah. But then they get to this mind thing. This is super George Lucas in this scene. We get to the climaxy part where aliens are involved and they're inside a UFO.
Because as we reveal that Crystal Skull is pretty much the source of aliens.
And these aliens come to life and shit. It's like, and they're all like fucking Star Trek. It turns into like Star Wars, Star Trek.
And it has some pretty, even to this day,
it does not hold up.
Yeah, they have some pretty fucking bad CGI for them aliens.
It doesn't. Yeah, this is just, and then it just fucking flies away or some shit like that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry.
And they end up killing Kate Blanchett right there. Yeah, after she tries to take the skull and everything.
Yeah, this
and pretty much it ends where
this was about to piss me off at the ending, but then they fixed it. Thank God.
Well, it pretty much ends where they escape from the Aztec, and they end up basically getting escaped from the aliens and stuff, and it pretty much ends where you got like a flying saucer going.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I say stuff. I said that it flies away. It rips apart where they're at and it flies away. And what I meant by I was gonna get pissed off about, but then they fixed it. Was him and Marion decide that, get married, and then this wind blows, and the fucking music starts playing, and the fucking hat and whip falls right in front of Shia LaBeouf. I'm like, you better fucking not do it. You better not fucking say, as in the homage, he's the next Indiana Jones, and Harrison Ford takes the hat back. I'm like,
no, it's mine, bitch.
He goes, you're not ready for it yet, kid. I'm like, fuck yes. I'm like, oh, dude, that you're talking about almost everybody's fist is about to be in the air and about to knock somebody out.
Like, no,
don't do it. And well, anyways, but yeah, I will say for the first time out of the 4 films, they made a bad Indiana Jones film. Yeah. They went at this in bad direction.
Well, I don't hate it as much as a lot of other people have. It's not good. But it is not a good film. I can admit over the years that after really watching it, I can only say I can understand why everyone's criticism is for this film, because it really, first of all, it takes a lot of shit from it stands out the most because you take Indiana Jones, who's known for more of a lot of fantasy type of adventure
jungles,
shit.
And I like how the archaeology is really explored, and real archaeology, not that fucking, we're gonna create some some alien bullshit.
Yeah. To me, I felt like it was a little too reminiscent of sci-fi, and George Lucas, I felt like was catering too much involved with this movie, like he was with the Star Wars prequels.
Yeah, he was too involved.
While, like I said, the first hour feels like a good classic Indiana Jones film. It's really only half of the film, because once the hour point picks up, it really feels like Lucas took over and it became a mess. So with that being said, I'm going to give the movie pretty much a high disaster grade.
I was actually going to say the same thing.
Yeah.
High disaster grade in Film Freaks meter. I was actually, when I saw this in theaters, and I walked out, I was kind of pissed. To be honest, yeah, I saw it in theaters, and I was fucking, after that epic fucking trailer, I was like, what the fuck, man?
Yeah.
So yeah, you're talking about A's, almost all phenomenals. Then you talk about this motherfucker, a high disaster.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is my Rambo 3 of the franchise. And even Rambo 3 was at least an average Joe.
Yeah, this one, I mean, there are some good things here and there, but it's far in between because of how fucking disjointed and everything that went downhill from it.
And to be honest with you, even Kate Blanchett is even a bad villain in this. She's annoying as fuck.
Yeah, and like the positives I will say is that Harrison Ford, he does bring his air game to it. He is great as Indy. He still continues to bring it everything that he can.
Yeah.
And I will admit, the first hour, it actually feels like classic Indiana Jones, where, you got the whip and you got him, doing classic shit through the jungles and stuff.
Yeah.
But once it gets to the hour point where we start learning more about the Crystal Skull, it really takes a nosedive.
It really starts losing me.
Yeah.
Because I start caring less and less by the minute.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
But basically, after this, they pretty much said that while when Indiana Jones The Crystal Skull came out, it wasn't quite a huge success, but it still was quite a success. Spielberg decided that for a while they were going to do. There were rumors eventually that they were going to have Shia LaBeouf take over the franchise.
And just before we get off with this, they are still. They're still in talks and it's supposed to be in 2021. We're supposed to be getting Indiana Jones 5.
Yeah,
which by the way has already had 5 turnover dates already.
Yeah.
It keeps fucking getting pushed. And by that time, we're going to have a skeleton version of fucking Harrison Ford.
But I'm still wanting them to continue. And I believe that, if they can fix the problems they did with the last film, they'll probably really go on a high note.
All right. With
that being said, I still love the original 3 films. And with that being said, I still recommend them. And with that, for those of you who have also seen the Indiana Jones films, let us know in the comments below of what you thought about them. And if you like what you see here, you can feel free to like and subscribe to our channel and check out some other reviews here and our website at filmfreaks.com. And we'll be seeing you in our next review.
All right.
We'll see you later.
Later.